Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to a little poem, Sounds of the Winter. This is poem 18 of the 31 of Goodbye My Fancy, and it's immediately going to make us think about our Thoreau and Walden, right? Where, of course, sounds and winter animals, both of those will be different chapter titles. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net on Walden, and we're going to reference it here later. Speaking of LearnStrong, our assumptions are that you have been there, Talks with Walt, our playlist, and that our introductory set of comments to the second edition, our second annex, Goodbye My Fancy, you've already been exposed to. And we just finished with Christmas greeting. Now our Nortons will tell us that this was first published in Lippincott's magazine of March 1891. And the poem is going to be a fascinating little study in the way in which, if we remember how Shelley says it in Ode to the West Wind, if winter come, can spring be far behind? I think very much that poem is here. Now, as we mentioned, Thoreau's Walden does have chapters called Sounds as well as Winter Animals, that 1854 offering, and I think Whitman is in some way trying to channel some of that. Sounds of the winter too, and the key word is too. In other words, he wants to embrace all of the seasons, including the winter season. And then he'll mention sunshine, which takes us, of course, to Song of Myself 40, font of the sunshine, right? Sunshine upon the mountains, many, notice all the dashes, makes us think of our Emily Dickinson in this poem. Many a distant strain from cheery railroad trains. His use of the word cheery comes to mind. Sunshine is used 7 times in Leaves of Grass, and that's obviously going to emphasize that what Whitman said, I keep on the sunny side of life. From cheery railroad train, from nearer field, barn, house, notice the trinities, the whispering air, even the mute crops, obviously not in the winter yet, yet ready to grow. The mute crops, garnered apples, obviously we got no apples growing in the winter, corn, children's and women's tones, rhythm of many a farmer and a flail. I think Whitman is very much interested in the idea of rhythms, and obviously winter to spring is one of those winters. An old man's, here we are back to the idea of old, garrulous lips run to ground, how he uses that word garrulous, among the rest, and then in italics, think not we give out yet. So now you got the old man, almost like Whitman speaking to himself, just like at the beginning of Song of Myself. Forth from these snowy hairs, you'll remember this in Annex 1, oh that blithe throat of thine, where he uses the phrase snowy hairs. Forth from these snowy hairs, we keep up yet the lilt. And you'll remember that we have already seen a poem to get the final lilt of songs. In other words, I'm not done yet. In other words, what's going on here at 2A? Well, I think he's arguing that there's still the promise of spring, even for him, in his old age. In other words, there's still things that can be done. I'm sure of it. I'm certain of it. At 2B, I love his use of the italics to give the emphasis of him speaking to himself, or his soul speaking to himself. Yes. At 3A, I mentioned Shelley's Ode to the West Wind. If winter come, can spring be far behind, and the promise of spring to always overcome winter, and Thoreau's Walden of 1854. Finally, at 3B, what was a time that you had to get through a long, hard winter, and the only way you could do it was to keep the lilt, as this poem says, to try and hope for the spring. And is it possible your study of Leaves of Grass has been that for you? I certainly hope that's the case. Thank you.